How many things that don't make sense regarding the of Charlie Kirk? How many things that don't make sense are we supposed to just ignore? How many things that make no logical sense are we supposed to ignore? How many? How many are we supposed? How many are we supposed to? What? What are we supposed to do? Just look the other way? What? Because we're not experts? Is that it? Have you heard that? What do you know? What do you know about this? Let me tell you something. As a former prosecutor, guess who the people were who were involved in determining guilt? They're called jurors, and they weren't professionals. They were people like you and me, just off the street. So what are we supposed to ignore? When a killing happens, before we finally say, enough. I can't tell you how many things aren't making sense. And listen to me. When you're dealing with this type of offense, got to watch YouTube sensibilities here. When you're talking about homicide, oftentimes, what really is it about is not intent or motive or opportunity, but forensic evidence, real interesting physics and chemistry and labs and angles and ballistics and frangible bullets and time of day. Yeah, eyewitness testimony, but things like expert witnesses. How a round can go this far. Can a 30-06 at this angle do such little damage? Can a bone somehow absorb this? And it becomes physics and specifics. Big time. It's all the time. What was O.J. Simpson about? Blood splatter and allele groups. So when you get into things like angle and expertise as to the particular weapons involved, you're not being conspiratorial. This is what you do. How many times, how many contradictions are we expected to swallow? How much of this? This is a part I just don't understand it. What are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to just look the other way and say, it doesn't matter? What do we know? We're not an expert. They want to tell us this. What do we know? We're just regular Joes. No, we're not. This is critical stuff. And I want to bring up a couple of questions for you that I, as a prosecutor or as a defense lawyer, would bring up. Things that I would want to consider if I was a prosecutor. How many contradictions are you expect to swallow? I mean, seriously, how many details are we told constantly that don't matter? Well, it doesn't really matter. How many times are we, you and me, how many times are we instructed to stop asking so many questions? Just let it go. Let it lie. And trust the story, even as that story keeps changing. We talked about the Epstein case. I told you before, the information that blows that out of the water is not about witnesses or who said what. It was about a little bone called the hyoid bone, which was fractured in his neck. And that doesn't happen from ligature suspension, if you know what I mean. It doesn't happen. That's the evidence. That's the evidence. You know, in the JFK case, you know what is the most important piece of evidence of them all that nobody talks about? It's a little bullet hole, or a bullet hole around, in the windscreen or the windshield of the vehicle, of the death vehicle. As it's driving away, a round comes from the front. Lee Harvey Oswald's in the back. It proves a conspiracy right there. That one fact. That one thing. Where did that shield go? They took it to a Ford Motor plant to be replaced. I don't want to get off into that, but what I'm saying is a little thing like that matters. The time a dog barks. When somebody says they went to a movie and they didn't. Little things like that. It's not big. It's not Perry Mason. They're not yelling at the last minute, I did it. This is not about disrespect also. This is not about spectacle or tone or getting credits or a bigger audience. It's about truth. And if you ask a question that's so important, remember how we used to, maybe you don't remember, but when Columbo would find little things which were exposed and magnified. When people commit homicide, they don't think things through. And they also feel kind of haughty. They feel like we're so good and we're so powerful that whatever we say the official narrative is, that's it. Well, it doesn't work like that. When somebody's killed in a high-profile event that is tied to politics and power and influence, the public deserves, you deserve, clarity. Don't ever ask for permission. Not weird feelings and emotional framing, not lectures, but facts that withstand scrutiny. And there are so many of them. I never say that, but you guys, everybody loves to say that on YouTube. Hey guys, you guys have come up with some of the greatest questions of them all. When explanations collapse under the simplest of examinations, we are not wrong to notice. We are doing exactly what we are supposed to do. And we're not, again, asking for permission. Yet the same pattern repeats every single time. I've been through this. A narrative arrives fast out of nowhere. Images circulate early. Descriptions are spread. Then contradictions emerge that wait a minute. Physical evidence doesn't line up. Doesn't make any sense. Number Building 7, 520 on 9/11. It fell in its footprint. Free fall speed. Wasn't hit by anything. 520. See? What are you supposed to do? Look the other way? See, when timelines blur and key details are dismissed instead of explained, this is when something's up. Skepticism is attacked as some kind of a pathology rather than answered. And questioning this is framed as dangerous. My friends, embrace your curiosity. They treat it as immoral. And that alone should alarm everyone because truth doesn't fear questions. And who are the people? Who are the people who supposedly love Charlie Kirk? Why aren't they Why aren't they asking any questions? Nobody. Nobody on cable news. Nobody is. Nobody cares. It's like they're all in on the game. And if a killing or a homicide occurred as described, the evidence would confirm it. You know the routine. Blood patterns would make sense. You heard what Candace said about observations she made about blood that wasn't where it was supposed to be? Huh? Remember also, Friends of JFK, the Zapruder film, where the head went back. And they said, no, that's from the bullet in the back. Everybody knows it wasn't. That was a grassy knoll shot. That was probably Lucien Sarti. The frangible bullet, which is interesting. Injuries should always match the alleged weapons. Ballistics would align with physics. Do we have ballistics? Have we lined it up? Was that rifle ever fired? Where is the rifle? Where is it? Nobody's saying anything. There's no specials. There's been more, and God bless him, there's been more interest in Bob Weir from the Grateful Dead than Charlie Kirk. Witness accounts have to converge, not drift. When these elements all conflict, it don't make sense. Nothing is off base. And listen carefully. Noticing is not conspiracy, it is common sense. In fact, not noticing is a conspiracy. Yet people, you, me, we're all pressured to argue what we see and think. Don't analyze footage. Don't slow it down. Stop it. Now you can look at the tragedy in Minnesota. Whatever you think about that one, you can look at this Miss Good, and we can slow that foul from every angle. There is not a frame that is not worthy of investigation. Fine. What about Charlie? Nothing. Don't compare accounts, they tell you. Don't ask why earlier image differences from later ones. Don't ask about what happens after the fact. You know, when people get married right after there's a death or life insurance was purchased right before the event. I mean, you've got to ask these questions. They're just telling you to move on. And the reason is obvious. Some questions threaten nothing, but others threaten everything. And you only take flack when you're over the target. If an official explanation collapses, it implicates people and groups and systems and coordinated efforts and maybe conspiracies and incentives and institutions that depend on public compliance. See, this is important. because they don't want you to go deeper. They don't want you to say, wait a minute, is this not only is the case regarding Charlie a problem, but what if TPUSA turns out to be this Madoff-like Ponzi scheme, which is another thing. And don't be surprised if that's next. And there's a lot of powerful people. And you've got to ask yourself this question. When someone or a country or a military or a person is involved as a culprit, ask yourself, what's the likelihood of that? Would they do something like that? Does that make sense to you? Would somebody do something that way versus another way? Let me say something and not be very, very too problematic. When you're in prison, remember this, Trevor, or Tyler, I keep calling him Trevor. There are things that can happen to you where you are made to go bye-bye. And from the black art of poison, there's something called noose on a bun. And it is so easy to give somebody something on a regular basis. And then when it's mixed with another chemical, it becomes lethal. And when it breaks down into its constituent parts, what you'll find in blood and urine and hair is just regular minerals and chemicals and sodium and potassium. Some things might be elevated. There are so many ways. I don't even know how to tell you this. If some of the more powerful and dark and evil forces in the world wanted him out of the way, the worst possible way is to do it enlisting this idiot Tyler Robinson. You just want to see, a tragic. Wow, he never woke up. Isn't that something? Then Erica can do her widow thing, and that's it. Not with 1,000 cameras. Think about it. If you heard today, the world was shaken today when Charlie Kirk was found, I'm not trying to make light of this, but was found unresponsive in his Arizona home, and he will be missed. That's it. We're off and running. And Candace Owens can talk all she wants about being suspicious. Oh, being suspicious. What are you going to do? Sometimes it happens. Because it's something you can't see. You're reacting to the story and not the event. But no, they do it in person. But then again, you got to ask yourself, well, what if somebody's just not that smart? What if a country, a person, an organization just is not that smart, or feels invincible, or feels that they control the media and that they can kill any subsequent investigation? That's another story. See, this is the part. That's why messengers, they always say shoot the messengers. That's why messengers are smeared instead of evidence that's addressed. The goal of these people is not to refute questions, but to make asking them costly. Remember, the left wants to control what you say. The right wants to control what you think. And we've seen this before. A killing happens. Questions arise. The case is declared closed. That's it. Details quietly shift. Nothing to see here. Move along. And then years later, the truth looks different. But attention is moved on, so nobody cares. This is not normal. Asking how an injury occurred is not disrespectful. Asking why, for example, expected usual physical signs are missing is not malicious. Not at all. There are cases. Review the case of Dorothy Kilgallen. She was a famous investigative reporter during the 60s who was about to expose the Kennedys when... Look at Virginia Giuffre, who in Australia was so happy she was announcing something with her house and her family. She's making progress. And guess what? She also is found self-harmed. See, but nothing happens because we just let it go. You can't let this go. You got to stay on it because people, like Gore Vidal says, we're the United States of amnesia. We're not curious about things. And asking why alternatives are never addressed is not misinformation. The most disturbing part of everything is not that questions exist, I'm telling you, but that so many people are afraid to ask them. That's the issue. Silence is rewarded. Stupidity is applauded. Good for you. Curiosity is punished. And repeating the official story is virtue. And demanding proof listen to me, is treated as disloyalty. Stick to your guns. I am. That is not how free societies function. It's how managed narratives survive. You don't have to like the people asking the questions to recognize why it matters. You don't have to ask why it matters that they do this. The burden of proof belongs, my friends, to those explaining a killing, not to citizens asking why the explanation fails. Is Ben Shapiro looking into this? Does Erica Kirk ever talk to anybody? Do any of these TPUSA people, anybody talk about this? Anybody? Is Piers Morgan or anybody? Does anybody, name one person on any of the cable news shows, does anybody do it? Does anybody say, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense? No, nothing to see here. Just like Bill Barr said. Just like Don Bongino or Dan Bongino, whatever his name is. Oh, whatever. Remember him? Nothing wrong. It's self-harm. Right, Cash. That's right. If the story is sound, if a story makes sense, it will survive scrutiny. And that's what we're going to do. And if it's not, then suppressing scrutiny only delays the truth. And we know what they're doing. We should not have to choose between compassion and clarity, or here's a great word, limpidity, pellucidity. Now look, we can grieve and still demand accuracy. I think Erica's done with the grieving. I think did the life insurance come through yet? See, when people ask why we are not screaming for answers, the answer is fear. Fear of labels. It's true. Many have a fear of dismissal, a fear of standing alone. Nobody wants to be a part of this. Nobody wants to be out there and say, why am I doing this? Somebody asked me the other day, why are you still talking about? I said, what, the most interesting story I can think of? Yeah. Here is just a list of some of the more ridiculous and impossible facts. Just curious, involving the killing of Charlie on September the 10th, 2025. It's a list of things that absolutely make no sense based on conspiracy theories or labels or inconsistency highlighted, by the way, in public discussion. Candace Owens recently claimed there was no blood visible in a never-before-seen photo of Charlie from behind right after he was shot, despite the fatal head wound, which defies totally basic forensics and physics and has fueled theories that the scene was somehow staged or altered. Now, stop right there. Is that proof? No. It's a suspicion. Make a note of that. Follow up on that. It's reasonable suspicion, not probable cause. That's all it is. That's a good point. Somebody follow up on that. Don't say, it's Candace Owens. No, follow up on it. Not on her, on the fact. Did you hear anything about that? Of course not. Because they told she is persona non grata. Then there's the cast iron cervical vertebrae that weren't affected in the slightest by a 30-06 round. As the official narrative claims, the bullet caused minimal structural damage to the neck area, despite the caliber's known destructive power, leading us to the steel neck. And of course, that theory debunks tests showing it should have shattered bone. In fact, not to be too gruesome, it should have removed. That should have been, just when it hits something, and just the kinetic power of this, it vaporizes things. But no, it was very neat. Make a note of that. I'm not saying it's true. I'm not. Make a note of that. How about the ridiculous letter that was supposedly penned to Lance from Tyler? A note left under Tyler Robinson's keyboard for his roommate, Lance Twiggs, which conveniently detailed motive and act, but leads like a scripted confession. Raising more questions about its authenticity and why it wasn't encrypted or destroyed. And the language, it's like ChatGPT wrote it, using words, remember, vehicle and others. Somebody should say, wait a minute, this sounds like somebody left this. And where is old Lance? Where is he? He's the guy to talk to. Say, Lance, have you ever seen this before? I don't know who wrote that. Lance, do you have any text messages? Can we look? We're not blaming you. Do you have a copy, Lance, of any of Any of his old messages or any of texts? Yeah, here we go. Did he ever talk about trans? Lance, did Charlie or did Tyler ever talk about trans people? Any hatred? No. Did you ever see him fire a gun? Was he proficient with a gun or not? No. I mean, and nobody's asking. And you would ask him in a way that makes him think like, look, you're done. Listen, my friend, not for nothing here, but we're here to help. And we need you. What about this story doesn't make sense? According to the Dairy Queen, I mean, none of it makes sense. How about the impossibility of Tyler worried about his father or grandfather, somebody finding out, being upset that somebody borrowed his rifle? Borrowed his rifle? As text showed that Robinson was fretting over Grandpappy's rifle, which is a family gift from his father or whatever, right after the shooting, which is absurd for someone who just committed a high-profile assassination. You're worried about Grandpa's going to kill me. No, not Grandpa. Nobody focuses on this aspect. And nobody is, I mean, it doesn't make any sense. That's the one that gets me. Are they trying to build maybe an insanity defense? It's absurd for somebody who just committed a high-profile assassination. And somebody who should have been focused on escape, getting away rather than family heirlooms. Make sure, and asking his lover to go back and retrieve it and get caught. This is going to be every square inch of this area is going to be covered with drones and with people and binoculars and eyewitnesses. And they want him, this guy with the fuzzy hat, to go back. And, oh, here it is. I left it over there. It's wrapped up. To walk out with this rifle. I mean, the what? Let's assume for a second that Tyler was fond of this kid. Why would he set him up? You've just done something so despicable. Did he even know? Did he even know that they're blaming him? If it was somebody else who did it, and Tyler didn't know about it, it could be a conspiracy that he was unaware of, which is kind of interesting. You see, the shooter's quick getaway after jumping from a rooftop and fleeing on foot, evading immediate security in broad daylight at a public event, which strains credulity, given the presence of law enforcement everywhere and how the area could have been secured immediately. And witnesses, they knew who this guy was. I mean, just ask yourself. You don't have to know anything about anything. Tyler Robinson's father turning him in. And where is the words for it? Turning him in based on a rifle description matching the one used? What? But only after a 33-hour manhunt, highlighting how a professional hit relied on traceable family weapons instead of something, I don't know, something else, something that's untraceable, something that can be broken down. Does this make it? Now, granted, you can say, well, he's not a professional, he's not very good. But again, does this make any sense? Wouldn't you love to sit down with Tyler and say, did you know this? And Tyler said, I didn't. What if he says, I don't know anything about this? I don't know if he got him juiced up or waxed when he's walking around with that. Don't be surprised if he's Epstein. Tyler, don't eat the green bananas or don't buy any. You know what I mean? I'm dead serious because, my friends, listen. If he goes away, if he is bye-bye, it's over. It's done. Look at Virginia Giuffre. They don't find out what happened. They don't even pay attention right now as it is. Even Luigi Mangione, they're more interested in because he's handsome or something. I don't know what the hell that's about. Mismatched text messages between Tyler and Lance, including memes like UWU instead of OWO inscribed on bullets and suggesting a possible fabrication or staging maybe. He's engraving shells and rounds. I mean, what? Tyler, did you do that? I didn't do that. Anybody check any prints? Is his prints? Where's his DNA? What do we know? What do you know? Now, there's a preliminary hearing coming up on the 16th, so a lot of it's going to be interesting. That is what is used to establish Probable cause. Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised. Listen to what I'm telling you. If they impanel a grand jury to immediately, indict him, to obviate the necessity of having a preliminary hearing in public, because you don't need a preliminary hearing if the grand jury's already established probable cause. See what I mean? Don't worry about the specifics, but I don't know why they want people to be listening, because a lot of people like you guys are going to be listening and watching every word of this. See, because they don't trust us. They don't think we're smart enough. They don't think that we notice these things. History shows the most dangerous moment is not when people like us ask questions. It's when they are no longer allowed. That's it. If we are told, again, to ignore evidence and common sense and physics and timelines and contradictions and documents and the like, and our own judgment, if we're told, don't listen to your own internal judgment, then truth has become optional. It's the scariest thing in the world. And when truth is optional, I'm telling you, my friends, power becomes absolute. And how many times do we have to go through this? This is not about one killing. It's not about whether facts still matter more than narratives. Well, I just don't know. It is beyond frustrating. And I want to grab people's attention. And this is great, and this is wonderful. And it's terrific, by the way, to say, hey, wasn't that Erica? She was acting weird. And what about this? And yes, and there are some great forensic accountants who are going back into this 110 LLC, and that's fascinating. That's TPUSA. But in terms of this, can you imagine a not guilty verdict? That means it's somebody else. It is, this case is fascinating for the obvious reasons. I was listening to we were at a radio group the other day. Somebody says, one of the most popular formats is true crime. I said, very popular. I said, don't give me that true crime. People love true crime as long as it's not about true crime. They like old stories and, Amityville Horror and things that happened, and they like to, dig through cases. Well, this is one right in front of you, right now. And just pay attention. Ask yourself. People have to ask questions. Why is it? Why? Why? Little things matter. Things that don't make any sense. Things that sometimes the killers don't think of. People have been snagged. There were sometimes mistakes. A pair of glasses left behind. Everybody says that the victim never could see without the glasses, took the glasses everywhere, never took the glasses off. Doesn't make any sense. Something that's irregular. That the dog was let out. He never lets the dog out. Things that mean something to us. Things that don't provide evidence of guilt, but provide that impetus, that provide that, That's exactly what we're talking about right now. This case stinks. Candace Owens. If tomorrow Candace Owens said, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm talking about something else. Watch the momentum, the entire momentum of the issue just go away. That's why it's so important and so critical that Candace always be watched and protected and looked at and watched over. I'm dead serious about this, because this scares me when people are allowed to just change the tenor of things. If it wasn't for her, we might not have been here. We wouldn't be here. Remember that making of a murder, or whatever it was? People were online. It was sleuths and the source crowdsourcing. It was wonderful. Look, I would love to sit across from Tyler Robinson and say, "Yep, oh yeah, he did it. Oh yeah, he was." His attitude, he knew too much, the way he acted, as opposed to what? When they say to you, Tyler, this is JFK talk. They're playing you for a patsy. You know that, right? Tyler, I know you didn't do this. But they want it all to go away with you. There were other people, Tyler, who are going to go, let's assume, what if Tyler then heard you say that and said, no, this was me. It's, you don't know. You don't know anything. You don't know. I still think the biggest fact that I think is interesting is how he would ask somebody that he loved to go and pick up some shooting iron from Grandpa, Pappy. You've heard me before. Look, thank you. It's the prosecutor in me. I notice things. Oh my God. There was a case one time, it was a murder case, and I prosecuted it. And it was a plea. But we looked at these pictures didn't make any sense. And this guy was found in his front seat of his car. And it was just like a 22. It pierced the lobe of the lung, and it wasn't particularly bloody. But I looked at this, and I asked the lead detective. I said, "Look at this guy in the front seat. How do you get?" And I got in the front seat of my car, and I tried to recreate anything up like this. Somebody shoots you, and I would have to get up, move. It turned out to be nothing because it was a plea. But he agreed. He said, that doesn't make any sense. No, I'm not suggesting somebody moved him. But certain things make no sense. Last one. There was a case one time we had, a similar one, where the lead detective said, okay, I'm going to be signing off on this. We're done. It was a plea, whatever the hell it was. I forget what it was. But they wanted to remove the evidence tape and release the whatever it was because it was done. And I said, you know what? I said, this may sound stupid. I said, but there's this one picture that drives me nuts. I said, see this shoe? Yeah. Where's the other shoe? Did you ever find the other shoe? He said, what? This is like sometimes in a road. You ever see like a shoe? I said, how do you lose one shoe? I wonder if that's the case. I said, oh, well. Anyway, I thought nothing of it. The detective went. And I got a call from him. He says, nope, I couldn't find it. He says, it's driving me crazy. I said, I just said that in passing. It was kind of a joke. He says, no, I don't understand this. Where's the other shoe? The more you look at things, the more irregularities you will find, the more anomalies you will find. And sometimes they matter, and sometimes they don't. But the best way to make sure nobody ever gets to the truth is to stop asking questions because you're being told by somebody that's enough out of you. Stop with your conspiracy theories. Stop with your 9/11 controlled demolition. Stop with your geoengineering. Remember the old days that said fluoride? Well, thanks to Bobby Kennedy, he's basically admitting everything that we've been talking about for years. Don't give up. Don't give up. And don't ever, ever, ever feel like you've got to ask permission to be curious. That's all. Okay? All right. My friends, I thank you. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your incredible brilliance and insight. The comments are phenomenal. And your observations I commend them. And you for that matter. Thank you. Also, thank you, my friends, for being so kind and astute in following my beloved wife at Lynn's Warriors. Our passion, her passion, 24/7, is protecting children, stopping child predation, and digital treachery. Because they are doing things to kids on the phone. Your phone is the portal, not the white van, circling the neighborhood, not the weird guy at the park bench, but that. And kids are being destroyed by AI and bots. And anyway, and we need your help because there is such an attack. You can't believe how they unload bots on her and because she dares to upset the apple cart. So anyway, Lynn's Warriors on YouTube, thank you. And thank you for this. Please like this video. It's critical that you like it. Hit that little bell so you're notified of live streams, new videos, and also make sure you subscribe. 70% of the people we find out who watch it don't subscribe. We need those. Critical. And also I've got some 5 questions for you to answer in the comment section, which I think would be great. All right, dear friends, have a great and a glorious and a wonderful, wonderful night and time. I appreciate immensely being with you. You have no idea. Until we meet again, my friends, remember this. I keep it right here. Remember this, as we always say, or I always end with, comment as you see fit.